WashingTECH.
An equitable world will require change from every one of us as individuals and organizations and sectors and communities.
Welcome to Tech Policy.
From Washington, D.C., this is Tech Policy
with Joe Miller.
Joe Miller, founder and CEO of WashingTECH.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Joe Miller. Afua Bruce is a leading public interest technologist whose career spanned the government, nonprofit, private, and academic sectors, as she's held senior science and technology positions at the White House, the FBI, IBM, and the nonprofit sector. Her new book, The Tech That Comes Next, How Changemakers, Philanthropists, and Technologists Can Build an Equitable World, explores how technology can advance equity. Pleased to welcome Afua Bruce. So now you used to work for the FBI.
Yes, I did used to work for the FBI. It was certainly an organization that was not on my radar as a potential employer before I ended up applying and getting a job there. But it ended up being a lot of fun. It's probably one of the most fun places that I've been privileged to work at. Just opportunities to see the science and technology that supports the investigation of cases and the ability to keep people safe was really exciting.
And you went there after business school, right?
Yes. So I did my business school at the University of Michigan, go blue. And I'd taken a leave of absence from IBM to go to business school. When I started business school, I had planned on just taking a leave of absence, going back to IBM and doing a traditional career in technology strategy in the private sector, but ended up pivoting to the FBI, which then opened doors for me to go to the White House and then to New America, the think tank, and then to work at a number of nonprofits.
So you've been at a lot of places. What was it where you worked at the White House on? Who was president when you were at the White House?
Obama, yes.
Okay, thank God.
Yeah. Although technically 6 months into the Trump administration, maybe 5 months, 6 months into the Trump administration as well, to help with the smooth transition, as smooth of a transition as we could make it anyway.
Yeah, with that guy in there.
It was an experience.
Did he get you guys? Did he get you Burger King?
I always had an open door policy while I was at the White House, and neither president I serve ever just walked by my office just to drop in and say hello.
Trump walked by your office?
So no president walked by to just say hello.
Neither of them did.
Neither of them did. No.
Neither. You say neither, I say neither.
Exactly.
So now, are you originally from Michigan?
I am not. I was born in Tennessee, but I just did my grad school in Michigan.
The only thing I know about Tennessee is that old Arrested Development song, and that was way too long ago for me to be talking about. So now when you were at the FBI, first of all, what made you go to the FBI, and then what did you do there when you were there? Because you're a software engineer, right?
Yeah, so I'm a software engineer by training. And while I was in business school, the FBI actually had a program, still has a program called the Special Advisor Program, where they recruit a handful of newly minted MBAs from top business schools across the country to join the FBI, essentially as internal consultants. So working on a lot of strategy issues throughout the FBI. And during my second year of business school, I got an email from someone at the FBI saying they wanted to talk to me about a job. And I replied and said, no, thank you. And then a couple of days later, I got an email from another person at the FBI saying they would really like to talk to me about a job. And so I thought I would go and talk to them and tell them no in person now that I'd gotten a second email from the FBI. But when I went to talk to the FBI employees who were on campus recruiting for this position, I realized that I could go to the FBI and find a really unique way to really combine my technical skills with my strategy skills and business skills that I'd picked up while being at the University of Michigan. And I felt that I really couldn't get that type of experience anywhere else because there's lots of things the FBI touches that you don't see in traditional and more traditional MBA jobs or even more traditional software engineering jobs. And so I took the opportunity. And when I I joined, excuse me, as an internal consultant. And so got to work starting in the criminal investigative division. I'm looking at ways to use technology better to strengthen some of their processes. And then I spent most of my time at the FBI in their science and technology branch. So getting to work with everything from, excuse me, the people who do digital forensics, the people who train crime scene investigators and do things through the FBI laboratory, the people who manage the background check process and the fingerprint check systems as well.
Do they give you a badge?
I did get a badge. I did not get a gun. I was not an agent. The world is safer with me not carrying a gun everywhere all the time. So that was my.
Let's talk about that. What's going on there? I was thinking about getting a crossbow. No, I wasn't really seriously thinking. They just looked cool.
They do look cool. That is true.
You're so lucky that they just emailed you. Like I have no idea. I would have no idea other than USA Jobs to look for jobs with the federal government.
Yeah, USA Jobs is probably your best bet. But the FBI and a lot of other government agencies do spend time on a lot of college campuses and do attend some of the large job fairs. And I think I also saw them at the National Black MBA conference, for example. They go to the National Society of Black Engineers. And so you do have government agencies that visit some of these large organizations and the job fairs they put on.
That's right, because you have an MBA too.
Yes, that's correct.
So your book, The Tech That Comes Next, How Changemakers, Philanthropists, and Technologists Can Build an Equitable World, that you co-authored with Amy Sample Ward, and Ruha Benjamin gave a testimonial praising your work on this because you give a step-by-step guide for improving philanthropy in this space. But a lot of people are saying, I'm good, I got everything I need when I need it, even if, they're kind of not aware of what else it is they may be missing out on, or how they're making themselves more susceptible to things like police surveillance practices that disproportionately target people of color and poor people, or they're not getting approved for an apartment rental, no matter where they live. It could be in rural areas, anywhere, because there's some algorithm working behind the scenes. So people may be happy on the surface because they don't know actually what's going on behind the scenes. And so what do you see as sort of the key issues that served as sort of a catalyst for you to write this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had the pleasure of working in many different sectors. Started my career off in the private sector at IBM. I've spent time in the government sector. I've spent time in the nonprofit sector. I've spent time in the academic sector as well. And I can assure you that across all sectors, people have conversations about how we can use technology better and how we can use technology more effectively. Whether you're a corporation and you're even just thinking, how do I make sure I'm managing my staff better? How are we reaching our target consumers and our target market better? Or how do we expand our target market? Why aren't people interested in our products more? Or if you are in the nonprofit sector or government sectors and thinking about how could we provide the same experience to our clients that they expect and have come to demand essentially from other services that they use, such as Google or Instacart even. How do we provide these same technology-based experience to our clients, and how do we use that same standard of technology in the work that we do? Or even from the policymaking perspective, how do we think about some of the issues that we're hoping to make a systemic change on, and what are the tools that are available to us? And then honestly, I think also just individuals and communities, people like you and me and the folks listening today, just how do you think about engaging with the world more? Are there things that you could be doing more efficiently with your time? And then some of the examples you gave as to when are you being offered services or denied services based on what goes on in the background and decisions that technologists made that you didn't even know about. And so it's from spending time in all of those sectors and participating in conversations in all of those sectors that it came to this work, and really thinking about how do we make technology work better for all of us? And I think it comes down to how do we think about what a more equitable world would look like, and a world in which communities can really have more say into what goes on in their communities and into the work they do, and how we can empower people and push towards a more equitable world. And from there, how do we build the technology tools? How do we deploy the technology to really help us along that journey?
So you brought an excerpt, I think, right?
I did.
I turn it over to you.
All right. People sometimes think technology is the way to address inequality. We don't think that, and that's not what we suggest in this book. In fact, that's not what our decades of experience with myriad organizations across sectors has taught us. Technology is a tool and nothing more. It's people who have ideas and solutions. As Octavia Butler said, there's no single answer that will solve all our future answers. There's no magic bullet. There are thousands of questions. There are thousands of answers, and you could be one of them if you choose to be. In asking for you and others to dream and imagine something different from what we have today, we want to acknowledge the privilege that it is to have the space for that dreaming. We have that space because we don't need to figure out where we'll get our next meal or a bed, or find medicine or support, or access care or safety. So that's what we dream of, that we all have space to rest, that we all have space to collaborate, that we all have space to build relationships. We don't ask communities to do the labor to undo the oppressive systems around them. We dream about self-determination for communities and community members. We don't want to perpetuate work that follows old expectations or dominant priorities. We dream about community-centered work that builds from community-centered values. This book is an exercise in doing that dreaming. We ask questions to prompt your thinking even beyond what is written here. We need more imagination, and we need more people doing that imagining together. As we discussed in Chapter 1, the systems and challenges around us, the same systems that created the need for an entire social impact sector to provide life-saving and enriching programs, have also deeply influenced the technology systems, tools, and culture present in our work and lives. We cannot build a better world through only more nonprofits or more inclusive services. If the technology-enabled systems, data collection, and even service models we employ toward a positive mission are themselves causing harm because they are extractive, don't acknowledge our identities, or are inaccessible, we must acknowledge that harm and make change in both the technology tools themselves and in the way we create technology for our needs. An equitable world will require change from every one of us as individuals and organizations and sectors and communities. Critical in this changing our relationship with technology generally, and changing the technologies we have available so that more appropriate, relevant, and equitable technology is available to meet our needs. Even more critical is practicing the big work of envisioning that we can do things differently.
So tell me one thing that shocked you during the course of writing this book, something you didn't know before you started conducting your research.
I think one of the examples that we talk about in the book that really, for me, crystallizes why it's so important to think about equity and then to think about how technology can really support that is the example that we talk about in the book of John Jay College and DataKind. So John Jay College is an academic institution in New York, and they train students, among many things. Most of their students get degrees in criminal justice related areas. DataKind is a nonprofit, also based out of New York, although it's international, and they do data science and AI for nonprofits and government agencies all around the world. And so DataKind and John Jay College entered into a partnership a few years ago where John Jay College said, we have a lot of services geared towards making sure freshmen make it to their sophomore year. But what we're noticing is that we have a number of students who are completing 3/4 of the credits they need to graduate, but not graduating. And so why is that? If someone is able to complete 3/4 of the credits they need to graduate, they're clearly able to take tests to prioritize and to schedule their time. So what are some of the reasons why they're not graduating, and is there anything we can do about it? And so working with the data scientists from DataKind, that data science team ran a number of models and algorithms there based on the data that John Jay College had from 20 years of academic record keeping. And we're able to find some key indicators, and Datacon was able to develop an algorithm that essentially identified students who were at risk of dropping out. And that algorithm, that model rather, also recommended some possible interventions. That information then was put in the hands of the John Jay College staff, who could make some informed decisions and then work with the students directly. And after 2 years of running this program, 2 years of using these models, the John Jay College team credits this program with an additional 900 students graduating at the cost to the university of only about 250 students. And so when you think about the number of lives that have been changed, the number of people who can pay back loans if they took out loans, who can get different jobs with more income, the impact of that, really thinking about what is the equitable goal that we have here, in this case, getting more students to graduate and getting more students to complete and obtain their degrees, and then picking the right technology, backing into that and really focusing on that, you have a really powerful outcome. And even more so, the Datacon staff, the Datacon data scientists rather, really worked with the John Jay College staff to sort of explain the technology. And so now the John Jay College staff also reports being more confident and being able to have more informed discussions as they have other technology vendors come to campus and figure out what technology they need or don't need, because now they know that they can understand that technology underpinning that some non-technologists can see or interpret as quite intimidating if they're not familiar.
You're plugged into the WashingTECH Tech Policy Podcast, the inclusive voice of tech policy.
So what were some of the factors? Are you aware of some of the factors that they used to figure out if folks were going to drop out 3/4 of the way into earning their degree?
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of those details right now, but I think, they were related to things such as academic workload, the number of credits that people were taking, GPA, if they were working or not. I think those were some of the factors that were identified.
So that's actually kind of a good segue into my next question, which is, thinking about disparities in education, one of which is girls in education, and particularly girls of color. What do you think holds girls back from pursuing careers in STEM like you did?
Yeah, absolutely. There are many factors. It's complicated, as I'm sure you know. And I actually am pleased to be a AAAS If Then Ambassador. The If Then Ambassador program is funded by Idaho Philanthropy and supported by the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And as part of the Ambassador program, they selected 125 accomplished women in STEM to be role models, because getting to your question, one of the things that holds girls back from pursuing STEM is just that they don't see a lot of people who look like them doing STEM and in different STEM careers, and don't see a lot of what it means to actually have a career in science or in engineering. And so the If Then Ambassador program helped to provide a lot of free resources for teachers and museums around the country to interview and to provide interviews with the ambassadors, the women in a number of different STEM careers, about their career path, about their interests, about the work that they do today. And so I think one of the things that we can do to encourage more girls to pursue careers in STEM is to show them women in STEM and that it's accessible. It's something that women do, and that they too can pursue it. So I think that's one tangible thing we can do.
Were you always interested in it, or was it the thing where you didn't really connect with it at first and then you ended up changing your mind?
I have always been interested in something STEM related. The type of STEM that I've been interested in has changed many times and continues to change and evolve many times. And there are parts of STEM that I don't like. Chemistry, for example, although my father is a chemical engineer, that interest in chemistry is not hereditary. And I never enjoyed really chemistry. But some of the other sciences and the engineering, the coding things, that has always been an interest of mine since, I was a young girl and would play with remote control cars and figure out how to do some coding for trains and more. And so I've always enjoyed the engineering aspect. And
so I assume your folks were pretty supportive when you decided to go down that path.
Yes, absolutely. My parents were both supportive. My dad, as I mentioned, had a degree in chemical engineering. My mother had her PhD in plant and soil sciences. Participating in the science fair was not optional in my house from kindergarten through 8th grade, despite my many attempts in many years to get out of doing a science fair project. But my parents insisted that we participate in that process. Just, the ability to run experiments, I think, was always encouraged. One memory that I have is when I was, when I was young, some friends brought home from an amusement park a plastic flip-up watch for myself and my sister, and the label said water resistant. I asked my mom what that meant. She said, it can withstand water. So I took my sister's watch and put it under the sink. And water resistant is not waterproof, as I quickly learned. But that's sort of just, taking things, figuring things out, running those mini experiments, even on something as silly as a water resistance. I've always done that, and my parents tolerated it for the most part.
If one of my girls did that to the other, whoever watched that they would just be livid.
I had to give up my watch. I had to give my watch to my sister.